Hope you're doing well. Happy Tuesday. Back again with another live stream. I'm excited for this one. As you can see in the title, we'll be talking about the difference between me and you. So, what is the difference between me and you, my friend? Now, this isn't inspired by Dr. Dre and that absolute banger of a song. It's this one is inspired by somebody who I spoke to yesterday. Um, So actually, I just had a coaching application call with a client who I'll be working with in London within the next 2 months. And yeah, we had a client call and we, discussed where he was at, and we've agreed to work together. And so I wanted to talk a bit about some insights that I got from our conversation. Now that obviously he paid his deposit and will be changing his dating life uh, for the better going forward. So this is inspired by him. We'll call him Kevin for anonymity's sake. But before I get into it, if you don't know who I am, my name's Ian. I'm 28 years old. I had a background in economic consultancy, and I was also a data analyst more recently. And then I've been learning more about sales just to increase my skill set, in terms of, being able to improve my, abilities to sell different products and this, tech related products. So that's something that I've been working on as well. But more recently, I decided to, put some time into helping guys, unstuck their dating lives and to, help them achieve the dating life that they want. And so that's one of the main reasons why I started this channel, to not only document my own journey through cold approach, specifically daytime cold approach, but yeah, just to inspire guys to get out there and to try it out for themselves, to give them encouragement, to give them my perspective on how I believe they should, move and operate to find success. And yeah, part of that is offering my services. So yeah, before I get into the topic, obviously, like I said, I have booked some coaching with my client Kevin for the next 2 months. So if you'd like to, be a part of the movement and you wanna, basically transform your dating life, then yeah, feel free to click the link below. It's in the description, and you can book an application call. We'll just talk about where you're at, and we can discuss, if we're a good fit, and if we are, then we could potentially work together. And yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, and in terms of the services, so there is the in-person coaching, and I also offer the virtual coaching. So I know there's guys out there who are already approaching by themselves. So maybe you just need some virtual support. If that's you, then feel free to hop on a call with me, and we can see if I can be of service in that way. But if you want in-person coaching just to accelerate your progress and results, then yeah, again, link in the description. I can speak. Anyway, so let's get into the juicy topic. So, like I said, I had this conversation with Kevin, and right, it's interesting because obviously we are all unique individuals, right? We all have a unique DNA profile, which makes us very different from one another. And, of course, I have no idea, who's out there in terms of, people who are struggling with their dating lives. Obviously, we know that it's a fairly common trend amongst young men in terms of not being able to, you know, find options, struggling with dating, and just basically living in romantic scarcity. I mean, you've probably all seen all those stats, right? There's a lot of stats out there that are painting a very bleak picture for modern men, especially young men. And so obviously, I'm speaking to Kevin on the call, and he's just talking about his life and what he does. And as he's talking and telling me about himself, I'm thinking, this guy is very similar to me. He's not that different, right? Obviously, I'll leave out specific details about him, but I mean, he's a young guy, right? In his late 20s, similar to me. He lives in the UK, not necessarily in London, maybe more near the Midlands, but he lives in the UK, right? So similar to me. He's a business analyst, so again, I used to be a data analyst, so not too much difference there. And yeah, and he likes to spend time with his friends, likes to spend time with his family, right? So he's got somewhat of a social life going for him, and he enjoys traveling, right? He told me that he traveled a lot last year, and I traveled quite a fair bit last year as well. In fact, last year was the most that I've traveled in one whole year. So again, very similar, right? Very similar approach to life. Told me that he's career focused, and he's trying to make moves in that aspect. So again, a guy who's driven, ambitious, has worked his way up through life. He's in his late 20s, so of course, he's sort of made a like he's carved a path for himself, rather than just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. And it looks good. Pause. Obviously, I don't swing that way, but it looks good. Looks healthy. Takes care of himself. Yeah, good energy. But just based off what we were talking about and how he came across. So, by all accounts, right? By all accounts, his life is in order, right? He's a solid guy, and on paper, he should have a solid dating life, right? He should have a good dating life, right? But of course, the reason he reached out and the reason that other people reach out is because even though these other areas of life are checked up or checked out, there just seems to be this one lagging area, which is dating, right? Just like me, when I found Cold Approach, I was in the same position, right? These other areas of my life were pretty much sorted. Not to say that I was completely satisfied with every aspect of my life, but they were at a sufficient level to a point where, again, on paper, from if somebody's from the outside looking in, then I should have had a good dating life. I should have had options. I should have felt capable of, you know, living the romantic life that I wanted to live. But that wasn't the case for me, and that isn't the case for my client, right? And it's interesting because you could say he should have a solid dating life, right? But I could even go a step further and compare myself to him and say, well, we're not that far from each other, just based off what I've described, right? And so why do I have a solid dating life now and he doesn't, right? And obviously, this isn't an attack because again, I used to be in the same position, right? And so I think without going too much into the details or going through every single reason as to why I'm here and let's say he's here, I think the main, let's say, all encompassing reason is this one trait, and it's confidence, right? Now, I'm sure my guy, Kevin, has confidence in many other areas of his life, but when it comes to dating, the confidence isn't quite there yet, right? Whether it's the confidence to actually approach, whether it's the confidence to, hold your own on a date, or to express your desires, or to be, super authentic when you're in front of the feminine. I mean, obviously, these are all intimate details, and obviously, we'll never. Everybody's at a different stage, but the point is that confidence is the difference. I'm at a place where I've built a lot of confidence from the ground up in terms of how I carry myself in the approaches, right? So, if you put me and somebody who hasn't done an approach before, then even though on paper we look similar in terms of career, in terms of where we've grown up, in terms of our social life, in terms of how we spend our free time, hobby wise, and fitness and health, even though we have a lot of alignment in those non dating related areas, if you put us standing together, there is a big difference in the dating confidence, right? In my confidence as a guy who's able to express his desires, right? And so, especially in such a bold way, like in cold approach. And that is the differentiating factor between somebody like myself who's had experience, has been doing this for almost 2 years now, and someone who's been through the trenches, somebody who's also been coached by an absolute savage in the skill. Shout out to Ephraim, right? Paul University, and somebody who's come out the other end a completely different person, right? With a skill set, and that confidence. If you think about confidence, right, that confidence is essentially a byproduct of competence, right? So through repetition, through iteration, right? So through making adjustments to my technique or making adjustments to the way that I have my conversations or making big adjustments to how I close and how I carry myself on a date, for example, right? All these iterations have improved my approach in terms of its quality, and I've also just increased my let's say my ability to sort of carry the entire conversation, right? And to eventually close and land dates. And so the competence is just essentially that, like how much have I built the skill set, and that competence is again, it's dependent on reps and iteration, right? Which of course is also dependent on, am I getting feedback, right? Am I able to audit myself, right? And this all happens on a timeline because obviously we're all at different stages. There are guys who will literally, do their first approach or their first 10 approaches ever, and they land a date within those first 10 approaches, right? For other guys, it might take a few months. And so, but the point is, there is some investment in terms of time and effort and energy towards building the competence over a consistent basis, after which you now arrive at a point where you have confidence. And confidence isn't just acquired by screaming affirmations in the mirror. I think that can be a part of it, but there has to be an action component, right? You can't just say you're confident, you sort of earn it. It's built brick by brick. And like I said before, we're all at different places, right? Because confidence, it doesn't sort of exist in like a vacuum. It can be, some people, like, confidence is very what's the word? It kind of draws from different areas. So, we can look at dating and we can say, okay, this person is very confident in himself within the dating context, but his confidence in dating is actually probably related to other areas, because confidence again is also somewhat dependent on self-worth, and that self-worth, it also takes energy from how this person feels about their career. Are they respected in their family or in their friendship group or in their community? Do they feel like they offer something to to society? Do they take care of themselves? Are they healthy? And so these are all different. These are different aspects, sorry, of confidence, and how that confidence can be drawn from different areas. And so that's why it's very hard to let's say determine how confident someone is without really knowing them to a good degree. But of course, it shows in your body language. It shows in how you speak. It shows in how you carry conversations. It shows in the sort of intangible aspects of your entire demeanor. So again, this is all there's different elements of confidence, but ultimately that is the difference, right? So if we're tying this back into the live stream, what's the difference between me and you? Well, the difference is that I've put in hundreds of reps, close to a thousand reps of direct approaches, right? The difference is I've iterated, and I've been through the valleys and picked myself back up to the peaks, and then gone through another valley, and then I've gone back up. right? But I've still kept consistent in terms of putting myself out there, in terms of taking action, in terms of breaking down self-limiting beliefs. And as I broke those self-limiting beliefs, like, oh, this girl's too attractive, or oh, these people will think that I'm weird, or oh, they're not going to react well to me because I look like this, or because I'm not this good looking, or because I'm skinny, or because XYZ, insert whatever insecurity you have, instead of buckling and saying, or instead of buckling and preventing myself from taking action, I just go in. I went in and I went in, and I did my best to iterate without feedback when I started out solo, which I'm sure a lot of guys watching are doing, right? If you're out there trying to learn this by yourself, then yeah, I was in that position too, and I spent time iterating, building that confidence, approach by approach, week by week, right? It wasn't linear as well, right? It sort of went like this, and then like this, and then it sort of stayed there, plateaued, maybe went back up, maybe even got lower, and there was no predicting how it would all turn out. But the point is, I kept going, and I iterated, and then I eventually reached out for coaching, right? And that was a massive turning point. That was like a multiplier, right? In economics, we talk about the multiplier effect, and how this can accelerate. $1 at the start of an investment into the economy eventually, accelerates and multiplies into thousands of dollars worth of value created in the economy, because it goes through different stakeholders, different people, right? Same goes for, coaching. It's like coaching can be that multiplier, right? You invest in somebody who is skilled, has been where you've been, and has developed the skill set to a point where they know how to guide you. They know how to look for certain weaknesses, sticking points, inefficiencies that you might not be able to see. And then they just call it out and they push you in the right direction. They give you that extra nudge, which is, I say nudge, but that nudge can move mountains, because, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So this can be really, really, pivotal and beneficial for somebody. And so that's what it was for me, right? And so once I was able to learn from somebody who was really good at what I wanted to get good at, then my competency just increased naturally, right? I almost automatically became confident as soon as I associated myself with guys in the space who really know how to do this. And so there's even that osmosis effect, right? Where if you're, let's say, the less confident guy, but you surround yourself with the confident guy, then like just naturally, just based off, I feel like there's, what's that term in science? It's kind of, I was going to say homeostasis or regulation, but I have this, there must be some sort of process that describes this, where if you've got person A and person B, if they spend a lot of time together, it's only inevitable that person B gets up to their level, if they have the right mindset, of course, which of course my client does. And, anybody who's willing to invest in themselves probably has the right mindset of growing. But, if you spend time with people who are more confident than you, spend time with people who, you know, envision, have great visions for themselves, looking into the future with optimism, and want to improve every single day, and have the skill set to back that up with evidence, then, if you associate yourself with them in person or even virtually, then that can accelerate your own progress, right? Because we are social beings. We do thrive on community and brotherhood, right? We're not lone wolves. I definitely used to be a bit of a lone wolf, um, sort of believer, right? That whole Sigma grind set niche on YouTube back in the sort of self improvement Corona days. Um, I remember like there was a part of me that was just like almost romanticized the idea of getting to where I wanted to get to by myself. But then you realize that, I mean, you're just stunting your progress. Why deny yourself like fast growth? And it's just more fun along the way as well. But without going on a tangent, this is all a part of building confidence, right? Building that competency, like I said, brick by brick, approach by approach, layer by layer. And it can take time. Again, we're all at different starting points. the more I've been doing this and the more I've seen people get coached and the more that I've, you know, sort of observed how people's journeys go in this whole cold approach odyssey, I've realized that everybody has a different starting point, and so therefore everybody has different sticking points and strengths as well, and therefore everybody has a different journey. And so, you know, I, it's interesting because obviously I'm asking you as a viewer, what's the difference between me and you? Because I know that people will always compare themselves to me, right? People will compare themselves to me and say, well, it's easy for Ian because XYZ. He's tall, he's got a really cool mustache, he's got beautiful eyes. If you guys are saying that, I appreciate the flattery, but again, like I said, pause, I don't swing that way. But you could have all sorts of reasons as to why you think I get results and you don't. And again, we could compare attributes like FIFA players. We could compare our stats, right? And say, okay, this guy's really good at this guy's better at this, and that's why he gets the results he gets. But again, I'll keep banging this drum on, but it goes a lot deeper than just the exterior, the external, the surface level attributes, right? That is somewhat important to a degree, but nowhere near as important as what's going on in here. That is the most important. And confidence is an internal metric, right? It's an internal metric. It comes from within, but it's also built from putting reps in, taking action. And so I know guys are comparing themselves, right? But resist the temptation to compare yourself to me or anybody else purely based on external metrics and think more about the internal aspect. Because obviously, people will watch my content, people will see my live streams, they'll see my videos, and they'll build a specific idea of me. But the reality is that, you don't really know like the in-depth parts of me, right? You don't know how I've built myself in terms of the risks I've taken, the doubts I've had to overcome along the way, the pressure from outside influences to, you know, go a certain path or not do this or not do that. And so, this is all just part of the game, right? And actually, thankfully, I've had people in my corner who also support me, especially like, guys like Ephraim, like that's somebody who's my guy, and I owe a lot of my progress to him. So it is good to have, I've certainly benefited from having somebody in my corner, but there's been some difficulties, right, in terms of just moving up, believing that I could actually get good at cold approach, right, and even specifically have the confidence to go up to the most attractive girls, right, the most beautiful. When I was in Thailand, I had a couple of vlogs where I talked about going on dates with girls that were out of my league, right, and just breaking down those self-limiting beliefs. So yeah, when you systematically break down those beliefs over time, you just naturally build confidence. And it's like confidence is like it is sort of like a scale, or like a, I don't know, like a tank, and you fill that tank up, and it just gets more filled, and eventually it just overflows, and you just have all this confidence that spills into everything you do, and it really shows. you know One thing I spoke about on the call with my guy Kevin was, people notice the difference in how you carry yourself or how you speak once you've put yourself through a skill set like cold approach, and you've actually learnt it, and really committed to the process of putting in the reps. Because this is one of the hardest skills you'll ever have to develop. I don't think there's anything that's harder if we're talking about social skills and high pressure moments, with a spotlight effect, and facing rejection, and having your entire identity questioned with every rejection. I mean, it can be a very daunting process. So for anybody who is courageous enough to actually embark on that journey, that changes you as a guy, right? And this is for anybody who embarks on it, because not everybody finds success quickly. And for some people it takes time, but I think one common factor or one common byproduct of cold approach is that regardless of how long it takes you to find success, you will build some level of self-respect. And that self-respect is also one thing that translates into confidence, right? Because somebody with self-respect looks at themselves in the mirror and goes, sure, this isn't working as well as I want it to in terms of getting the pure primary result of, dates or getting laid or getting a girlfriend, but it, ultimately I'm still building a lot of internal confidence purely by just taking action, facing rejection, dealing with the spotlight effect, owning the approach, being convicted, picking myself back up when I've already fallen, right? So these are all traits that are built from reps. And so that's the difference, right? I've just done that more times than, let's say, the average viewer. And there's guys who have done it way more than me. And what do you know? They're more confident. They have, let's say, more confidence when they go in for approaches. They've done more difficult approaches, right? There's always another like mountain to overcome, to climb, another hurdle to jump over. And once you do that, you unlock another layer of confidence. So yeah, that was the live stream. It's a short one for today. Just wanted to, capture my initial thoughts on the conversation I had with Kevin. But yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool to meet new guys and to hear their stories and to realize that there's so many guys out there who just need a word of encouragement, and well, more than a word of encouragement, they need proper guidance. They need somebody in their corner who understands what they're going through, who can help them get to where they want to get to, right? Because to quote that amazing Disney movie, High School Musical, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Right? Was that High School Musical? I'm pretty sure that was High School Musical. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, for all the Disney nerds, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't attack me, please. But yeah, we're all in this together, and we need, it's important to connect with like-minded guys who understand what you're going through and have, have basically walked in your shoes. I've walked in those shoes. I've been there, and I wasn't there that long ago. I was there like 8 months ago, essentially. I wasn't there that long ago. It's not like I'm saying, oh, this was like 10 years ago. No, I mean, I was literally in that position not too long ago. And now I've like completely transcended that. And even to this day, I still pinch myself because I'm like, this happened fairly quickly. It happened fairly quickly. And I think a part of that is because I just took action and reached out for additional help fairly quickly. I didn't allow myself to bang my head against the wall. Granted, I got some results when I was doing this solo, but it certainly, reaching out to somebody certainly helped, right? And it just opened up my mind to what's possible. And yeah, you never really know until you try. And I think it's important to take a risk on yourself, because quite literally your life could change, your entire life could change. I always think about this process of cold approach because it's just changed so much about me and how I view myself in the world. And I used to be someone who just didn't really believe in myself. Even though I had confidence in other areas of life, there was a certain aspect of my confidence that was missing. There was a gaping hole there and it needed to be filled, and I didn't quite know what it was. And then just upon more self-reflection and self-awareness, I realized, well, my dating life is not in order and I'm not getting what I want, and this is affecting other areas. And making that change through this medium of cold approach was, it was intense, but it was a big payoff in the end, And so now I just want to share that growth with others and help them to get to the same point that I'm at, right? And again, it can happen a lot faster than you think. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but with the right mindset, with the right attitude, then yeah, things can go on the up, right? But boys, it all starts from within. You know, it all starts from within, you know? So there's a great verse in the Bible. I'm not a super religious guy, but I do love religious texts. Well, I love some parts of some religious texts where there's, timeless wisdom. And there is a verse that says, be transformed by the renewal of the mind, right? So people can be transformed by the renewal of your mind, right? You can transform yourself, like you can transform your entire reality by renewing your mind, the contents of your mind, right? And that obviously bleeds into confidence, right? And that's a process over time, right? And don't get me wrong, like that can change overnight to some degree, right? You can, on the one hand, you have all these self-limiting beliefs. Oh, if I approach the girl, she's gonna reject me. Or oh, if I approach the girl, she's gonna pepper spray me. Or somebody's gonna tackle me to the ground. Or, I'm gonna get the police called on me. And then you do your first ever cold approach. She smiles. She says, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, but I've got a boyfriend." And then of course you're like, "What the hell? It went well. She thanked me. What?" And all of a sudden your mind is transformed in real time. That is literally what happens, right? You overcome that fear and boom, you're a new person. Now, of course, you have to maintain that energy because you can't just slip back into old habits. Otherwise, you will literally just be who you used to be without any transformation. But if you go down that track and you just commit again and again and again, and you continue to break down those beliefs and get those positive reference experiences, then, brother, you will be transformed. And so, yeah, I hope that's of value, guys. That's pretty much it. I didn't really want to speak too much about anything else. But yeah, obviously, I'll keep guys updated on how the coaching goes. And yeah, I had another call with another guy as well. After that as well, solid guy too. Obviously, different profile. And so yeah, hopefully we'll be working together soon too. Just need to confirm that. But yeah, things are looking good. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, if you want to, if you feel inspired or you resonate with my message and you want to transform your dating life and gain that inner confidence to get out there, put yourself out there and get the women that you want, without having to scroll on dating apps or, do social circle game or go to nightclubs because you're an introverted guy like me, or, you're busy professional, you don't really have too much time to piss about. Then yeah, links in the description. Book a call with me. We'll just have a nice back and forth conversation, and if we're a good fit, we can work together. And if not, you'll still get value. So yeah, that's it, boys. Have a good Tuesday. Tuesday? It's a Tuesday. Have a good Tuesday, and yeah, till next time. Peace out.